Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 427 of the All Dolphins podcast on this Monday, December, what's today? Is December
I
9th.
think it's the ninth. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I wrote a story on on Miami Dolphins on SI.com about the anniversary of one of the greatest plays in team history. Of course, I'm talking about the Miracle in Miami, which was December 9th, 2018. So I should remember the date. Day after the Dolphins beat the New York Jets 32-26 in overtime. Joined today by Adam Beasley from Pro Football Network. Bees, thanks for joining me. And I guess ugly win's better than no win, right?
I don't know even how ugly it was. It was just bad on defense, right? I mean, I think the offense played pretty well. I mean, certainly, what they put together late in the game to tie it, and then that overtime drive was about as good as it gets from an execution standpoint, for sure. I am encouraged by the offense, but the defense does worry me a lot because the Jets weren't a particularly good team on offense, and for a while they couldn't get a single stop.
Yeah. No, and to me, it was more of the same old on offense at home against a less than great team. Not to diminish what the Dolphins did, because you still have to do it. But again, when they do at Houston, it's be more.
I don't think we learned very much, right? What we thought we knew about the Dolphins going in was confirmed and maybe even reinforced. I do think that if every game, including the Super Bowl, was played at 1 p.m. on Sunday at Hard Rock Stadium, the Dolphins would dominate. They would be the best team in the National Football League. You put them in any environment unlike that, they're going to have some issues. And Week 15 on the road, Houston Texans, good team. We'll see how it goes.
Yep, there will be another telling game like Green Bay, and then they didn't answer the call against Green Bay. Hopefully it's different against the Texans. You wrote a very good story. In fact, I texted you to tell you wrote a good story because that's how I roll on Pro Football Network. Check it out, profootballnetwork.com, about how the Jets, while the Dolphins did the things they needed to do at the end to secure the win, the Jets were mighty generous. Once they had that first and 10 at the 27-yard line with like a minute 15 left, Dolphins with 2 timeouts, and the Jets were very, very, very accommodating.
Oh, I think it was borderline criminal what happened in that game. Like, it was, I sent a joking text to a Slack thread at work, and I was like, man, Jeff Ulbrich needs to be investigated for point shaving. Because the decisions they made late, every single one of them was like, if you were trying to lose, you would make that decision. I believe they had 1st and 10 at the 27 with 74 seconds left. I think it was a minute and 14, somewhere around that range. Dolphins had 2 timeouts. Legitimately, if they would have taken 3 kneels, kicked a 50-yard field goal, and then kicked the ensuing kickoff out of bounds, that all would have been better than what they did. Like, that series of events would have been far better than what they did, which was take a negative run, so back them up 5-6 yards or whatever, and then they called a pass play on 2nd and 15 with the Dolphins only able to stop the clock one more time. So, like, a lot of bad things can happen. You throw the ball and you don't need to, including a sack by Zach Steeler, which was one of the bigger defensive plays we've had all season. But you also take an interception or an incompletion, you put that on the table as well. So the Dolphins got the sack, used their final timeout. So then it was 3rd and 21, I think, at the 38. I believe that's what it was.
Correct.
With, again, maybe 67 seconds, something like that, somewhere in that range. Run the ball or throw a dump off or do something other than throw the ball to the sidelines, which is what Aaron Rodgers did. Apparently, I didn't know this right after the game, but I found out after Rodgers talked, it sounded like he audibled into that. They had a draw called, and there was the Dolphins were light in the box. They were heavy in the box, I guess, and so it was smart that he threw the ball, but not that smart because you can't do that. So what they did is they gifted the Dolphins a timeout, saved 40 seconds, which was, that was determinative. They don't get out of bounds there, and the Dolphins lose the game. There's just not enough time for them to do what they did, and kick the field goal, and then kicked off to Malik Washington, who brought it 45 yards back and had basically the ball at midfield, needing 1 first down to kick the game-tying field goal. It was nuts. Like, everything that you could have done wrong, they did do wrong. And then Ulbrich said they were way too aggressive blitzing on that overtime drive, and the Dolphins ate them alive with screens. So they need to send a massive Christmas gift package. Where is Jets HQ these days? Is it Floral Park still?
I have no idea.
Yeah, wherever it is.
All right.
Wherever it is they practice up in Jersey, they should get like a wine and cheese platter, because the Dolphins only have a pulse right now for their playoffs because of complete idiocy by the Jets late in the game.
Yeah, and I wrote about the playoff picture on the Miami Dolphins on SI.com, and basically, technically, the Dolphins could make the playoffs if they go 9-8, but based on the remaining schedules of the contenders, they pretty much have to win out. If we're going to be honest about it.
And although they did get some help last night. The Chiefs beating the Chargers. The Dolphins are only 2 games out of the 5 seed. That's what's crazy. Like, they're not going to get there, but they're only 2 games out of the 5. So now there are 3 teams. Like, I think the Chargers play the next 2 weeks, the Buccaneers and the Broncos. Those are 2 very losable games.
And here's the thing, Beast, because in my story, I checked out every team's schedule. After that, the Chargers close at New England and at Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah. No, those are the 2 games that they have to lose if the Dolphins are going to catch the Chargers, right?
No, correct. But this is why, again, this is where the Dolphins have to run it out, because the Chargers get 2 more wins. The Dolphins can't catch them unless they run the table.
And they can't be in a head-to-head with the Colts either, because they lost that game.
Unless it's a multi-team tiebreaker where the head-to-head doesn't apply. And then the Dolphins will beat everybody in a conference record tiebreaker.
Which is wild, because they can't beat NFC teams, but they're good against the AFC this year, right? They're 1-3 against the NFC, with the 49ers still to come, which means my math tells me they're 5-4 against the AFC. Right?
You're good. You. Yeah. Not just a pretty face. There are a couple of other things too to note on that last series by the Jets. Is there was a shot from behind the Jets huddle where you see Garrett Wilson very quickly beat on the play where Zach Sealer sacked him. Garrett Wilson very quickly beat Jaylen Ramsey on a slant, and Aaron Rodgers was focusing solely on the right side. I'm guessing that's where Devontae Adams was. I don't recall. But if he looks over the middle, he's got an easy completion to Garrett Wilson on that second down. The other part of it, too, is you mentioned like 3 kneel downs. Just even 3 straight inside handoffs tell your running back, both hands are on the ball. Let's say even the 3 plays gain nothing. You were at the 27. That's a 45-yard field goal with the Dolphins now left with like 15 seconds left. So thank you. Then again, it's not the Jets are not the first team who have badly mismanaged the clock or timeouts in late game situations. And the Buffalo Bills were one of those, with running the quarterback sneak, needing 2 scores, and then calling a timeout, leaving them with 2 would basically put them in a position where they have to recover the onside kick. And that loss, actually, I hope Dolphin fans are not like, the Bills lost, because that didn't help, because the Dolphins do not want KC clinching the number 1 seed before the last game of the season, because they played Denver in that regular season finale, and they had clinched the number 1 seed in 2020 heading into their last game, and the main guys sat. And Baltimore did it last year. Their main guys sat. So the precedent has been set that guys are not going to play. So, and that game is at Denver, and I have a hard time seeing the Chiefs winning at Denver in Week 18 if Mahomes is not playing, if Kelsey's not playing, Chris Jones is not playing, those guys.
Okay, so the Chiefs, fortunately for the Bills, the Chiefs have a brutal finish to their season, right? I mean, they got the Browns this coming week. The Browns aren't a great team, but look, you can't count Jameis out. Like he has the ability to beat. Come on now, he has the ability to beat the Steelers. The Steelers are a good team,
sure,
and he has the ability. I'm not saying it's a likelihood. Some of the Browns would have 0 chance. With Jameis, they do have a chance to beat the Chiefs. I don't think it's a great chance, but they have a chance. The Chiefs are kind of fraudulent a little bit. I mean, they are. They're probably the 7th or 8th best team top to bottom in the NFL, even though their record is number 1. I mean, their offense has had some serious warts. So,
Except
but okay,
it always comes through when they need to though. My
it's true. That is true.
Lord,
But
I am
but
so sick of them. You have no idea.
me too.
Go ahead.
After the Browns, the Chiefs finish with home against the Texans, at the Steelers, home against the Broncos.
Correct.
So, let's see. I have to look up who the Bills finished with. I don't think they have.
Well, the Bills next week are at Detroit.
Okay.
She's not going to be a gimme, especially the way their defense looked against the Rams.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Lions' offense is pretty good. I've heard stories about them being okay on offense.
Yeah, they're all right.
After that, though, Patriots, Jets, Patriots. I mean, it is as layup as possible.
Correct. So they're 14-3 or 13-4.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
What is that? How many losses do the Bills have now? They are
3. They're 2 games behind.
So they're 10-3 and 2 games behind. So yeah, what they need then is they need to win their next 3 and have the Chiefs lose one of their next 3 to make Week 18 meaningful for Kansas City.
Correct.
Which I could absolutely see that happening. 100% could see that happening. You don't think they can beat the Lions though?
Oh no, I do think they can beat the Lions. I absolutely. I think Buffalo's a very, very good team. I think they just one of those days where their defense had no answers for Stafford, and Puka Nacua was basically, I mean, could have caught like a pea in the wind or something. I mean, that's how ridiculous he was, how zoned in he was in making catches. But I do think Buffalo can beat Detroit. Absolutely. And that would be huge for the Dolphins again to make that last game for Kansas City meaningful when they play Denver. Again, assuming the Dolphins do their part.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Chiefs can clinch the 1 seed this week, but they can come pretty close, right? I mean,
they can't clinch the 1.
No, because they are 2 games up on the Bills, correct?
No, right. Yeah, correct. They're 2 games up on the Bill. They would be 3 with 3 left, but Buffalo gets the tiebreakers. So
right.
So they couldn't clinch. So Mike McDaniel did his weekly day after the game media session. We should pass along the most significant news of the day. And basically when it comes to Teron Armstead is, we'll see. He did say surgery right now is not the remedy for his knee issues. And I don't know if you saw, I went back and looked. I was zoning on him every play he was in the game just to see if I could pick up what happened. And second offensive play of the game for the Dolphins, it was the pass to Jaylen Waddle where Liam Eichenberg played the role of Bill Laimbeer again and induced a roughing penalty on Javon Kinlaw. And after the play, you kind of see Armstead like kind of hopping like in discomfort. So I don't know if he stepped wrong or what. So Mike McDaniel said, he's going to rest a few days and then we'll evaluate. Again, it's not like he's been practicing anyway. So
yeah, you came out of that more optimistic than I did. I think that was him telling us he needs to rest this week.
Like, I buy that.
Yeah, I would be very, very surprised if he plays this week. And that's if you look at the schedule, that's not a great thing for the Miami Dolphins because the Houston Texans have arguably the best pass rush tandem in the National Football League.
It's up there.
And Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, they have combined 20 sacks in the season. Mm-hmm. That's the most of any 2 players on the same team. 97 pressures in 13 games between the 2 of them. That is marvelous stuff. Their pressure rate is both over 13, 15.6 for Anderson, 13.7 for Hunter. And the Dolphins, we forget about this because Kendall Lamb feels like a starter, but he's not the starting right tackle, right? Austin Jackson was. Mm-hmm. So the Dolphins will likely be going into Houston in a game that they absolutely have to win. Absolutely have to win that game without both of their starting tackles. And again, I think Lamb, you look at Lamb's stats and they're fine. I ran these for a story that I just put up on PFN. Jackson on the year allowed 15 pressures and 3 sacks on 294 pass block snaps. Lamb, 12 pressures and no sacks and 246 pass block snaps. So those numbers are pretty similar. Like they're in the same ballpark. Now when you do Armstead versus Paul, Armstead's pressure rate against is 2.9%. Paul's pressure rate against is 7.3%. And he's allowed 2 sacks and 7 pressures on 96 pass block snaps. So he has not been good. Like he's had some moments where you could see the athleticism and what the future might look like. but the present is very, very scary, particularly considering who the opponent is in Week 15.
No, and the Dolphins, generally speaking, are pretty good at mitigating the opponent pass rush. I think the one exception, obviously, was the Green Bay game. I can think you could see that as I put that on Twitter as a reply to your post, me being the smart ass that I am, saying, well, maybe this is a game we'll see some screens from the Dolphin offense. Kidding, because they always do it, and I think you're going to see an even bigger dose of that. Again, the Dolphins do a lot of things to compensate for their shortcomings on offense, and that's a hat tip to Mike McDaniel, and that's part of the reason why there are so many short throws to compensate, again, for the lack of what you would call, it's not a Detroit Lions offensive line in terms of pass protection, and to compensate for the lack of a running game, which has been brutal. I just looked up something. They had 4 3rd-and-1s against the Jets. HN minus 1 yard on a run, HN minus 3 yards on a run, incomplete pass to Tyreek, and then you had the DPI in the end zone. I mean, holy smokes, is that bad? And are you with me on, no offense, I like the kid and all that, can we stop using Devon HN on 3rd-and-1 runs?
Yeah, I don't understand why they don't use Jeff Wilson. Hal Habib had a very good story last week in the Palm Beach Post.
Yes.
The conversation he has to have with his son about his much reduced role in 2024. And he's not a guy to make waves, but you can tell from the column that he believes he can help this team. And he's right. Like, he's the most physical runner that they have. And I think they kind of thought Jalen Wright might, because Jalen Wright's not a big back, but he's bigger than Achane for sure.
Correct.
That hasn't really panned out. I haven't seen a ton of him. Basically, their entire offense has been Jonnu Smith until this past week. Jonnu Smith and Devon Achane. That has been the totality of their offense.
Yep.
Which is wild considering you have like $58 million tied up into your wide receivers. But it was good to see both Tyreek and when's the last time Tyreek and Waddle both popped in the same game? Definitely not this yeyear, right?
Jacksonville.
They both had big games in Jacksonville?
Yeah, I think they were both over 100.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's right. Because Tyreek had that bomb, so that helped him too. All right. So once certainly not the end of last year. Like you have to go and really think back. It's been a calendar year. So like one time in the last calendar year before Sunday, both those guys played at a high level, or had it produced at a high level.
Correct.
At the same time. So interesting. I think they're going to, I don't know how they try to run the ball. That Texans defense isn't just a pass rush. I mean, top to bottom, their secondary is very good.
Right.
Like that. The Texans offense has got real issues. We'll see how they handle Joe Mixon. But on defense, they're really, really talented. So this is like, they go and win there on Sunday, and they deserve to be in the conversation for the playoffs.
No, absolutely. And this is a nice matchup because Mike McDaniel against his former 49ers colleague, DeMeco Ryans, guided the Texans to the AFC South title in his first year as head coach last year. And unless my math is off, if Houston beats the Dolphins and the Colts lose at Denver, Houston clinches the AFC South for a second consecutive year. The one big issue with the Texans is their interior offensive line is brutal. And this is where Calais Campbell and Zach Sealer have to come to play and be difference makers like they were for a good part of the fourth quarter. Zach Sealer had 2 sacks in the fourth quarter, and Calais Campbell is the one, while he got credit for no tackles, he's the one who was the first impact player on both of those stops for minus yardage on that last Jets drive, including the last Sealer sack. So those guys have to come to play and dominate the game. I would love like a shot over the top. They tried it a couple of times yesterday and they just can't connect. Would be nice. I would help in a game against Houston where I don't know if you're going to be able to, matriculate down the field the way they have in the recent games, though they're doing that very well. And it's a hat tip. Pay attention, all of you podcast listeners who say I never do this. Hat tip to Tua and the way he's distributing the ball. And this is where I set you up right there, Mr. Beasley. Without giving away all the story, because I want people to click on profootballnetwork.com to check out your column. You basically made the case for Tua belonging in the MVP conversation. So Reader's Digest summary to tease into your column on pfn.com.
Yeah, the short version is there aren't 5 players right now in the National Football League that are more valuable to their team than Tua, because we have the apples to apples comparison, right? We had Tua, the offense with Tua, the offense without Tua. And I think the 4 games that he didn't play at all, their total offensive EPA was like minus 60. I mean, it was egregiously bad, like just unspeakably bad. With him in the 9 games that he's played, I think it's plus 30 something. Not great, but certainly not what, worlds better. And since he's been back, 15 touchdowns, 1 interception. I mean, he's like, that's as good of a 7-game stretch as you'll see in the National Football League. I mean, he's been completing 75% of passes. Like, he wasn't 100% dialed in on Sunday, and he still completed 70% of his passes. Like, that's how good he's gotten. Again, the ADOT's a lot lower than it's been in years past, and some of that's built in the backs of screens, but not all of it. I mean, that throw he had to Jonnu in the end zone that was an elite throw. It really was. The window hater, come on, go back and look. Like the window.
Go finish your point, and I'll chime in with my couple.
The window he put it into there for that touchdown was a grade A blue chip throw. I mean, that was a really good throw he had there. I just think the body of work he's had has been up there since his return. And that's here, if you want to give the MVP award to the guy who's had the best full season, there's no way Tua can win that because he missed 4 games, right?
Okay.
And the team's 6-7. Certainly I get it. But if you're asking who's the most valuable player to their team, you can Saquon Barkley. You've seen the difference he's made in Philadelphia has been staggering. Josh Allen is a total freak. What he's done, he would have my vote. Lamar Jackson, we don't talk about him a lot because he's been quiet for the last couple of weeks, but on the season, he's been really, really, really good. And then after that, Tua should be one of the next 2 or 3 to follow. And so that, by their nature, should be in the conversation of MVP candidates.
Case presented very well. My only thing is I am, again, podcast listeners know I will push back to a certain degree because I don't get fixated on the completion percentage when his intended error yards per attempt is the lowest in the NFL. And Tua is very accurate. And that throw to Jonnu Smith absolutely was accurate. The angle from which you see it, though, I think warps a little bit the tightness of the window. And to me, what stuck out on that play, while it was there's a very nice throw, and this is the kind of throw that Tua throws as well as just about any quarterback in the NFL. What stuck out to me is, holy crap, he's got all day to throw. But that was a beautiful throw. So I don't necessarily get fixated on the numbers, the passer rating, because again, the passer rating looks strictly at the end result of the play without any consideration for how it was done. For example, those 2 screen passes to Jonnu Smith, that's 118.8 passer rating right there. And what did he do? He threw pass to the tight end at the line of scrimmage. I'm sorry, but that's.
I'm with you. The passer rating is a flawed stat. I'm going to have a shameless plug right now. I'm talking about PFN's Quarterback Plus, which is our proprietary metric, and it takes things into consideration like third down, how he performs on third down, clean pocket, messy pocket, on schedule, off schedule. Does he pick up the first down? These things that go beyond just because look, if it's 3rd and 35 and the DBs are all 25 yards back of the line of scrimmage, he gets a 20-yard completion. That's it's meaningless, completely meaningless, right?
Correct.
The metric we have takes into consideration, the situation and how important and how well he's executing in times, crunch time, like fourth quarter, things like that. And he's second behind Lamar on the year in QB plus. So I think, yes, he has definitely helped by his circumstances for sure. He's also been making some big boy throws.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with that. And I don't like, and some people were in the comments yesterday on the live podcast. Check it out. It's still up there. Use as an argument. I refuse to use as an argument. Look at what the offense looked when he wasn't there and looked at the offense now, simply because Tyler Huntley, Skylar Thompson, and Tim Boyle are available on the market tomorrow. Who's lining up to sign them? I mean, we went from having like insanely subpar quarterback play to now you're having like really, really good quarterback play. I will say this, however, if the Dolphins run the table, absolutely, I think he belongs in the conversation. But if
that would mean what they've won.
They would have gone 9-4 with him.
9-4 with him, but closing, you would have gone 8-1, right? You would have won 8 of your last 9.
If they go 10-7, 8-1, correct. If they go 9-8, then with Tua they would have been 8-5, which again, and because I hear coming the comment, well, Poop, you don't like quarterback. One loss as a quarterback stat. No, I don't. But it's also a reality that's going to come into play when it comes to the MVP conversation. If the Dolphins go 10-7 on the season, I think absolutely he deserves consideration.
Well, I guess the only pushback I would have is this: what more could you have reasonably expected from him in the Bills and Cardinals game, the second Bills game, of course. Those two games, 9 times out of 10, that's a win. If your quarterback puts up the kind of performance he had in those games, 9 times out of 10, those were wins. Your defense just completely laid down late. Like their second half stats were just brutal in those games. So yes. Then again, yesterday was a gift. So sometimes these things even out. Okay. Right. But I would say he has done, since he's been back what now? He's 5-4 too. He's been back 7 games. He's played certainly well enough to win in 6 of those 7 games. And I believe there was some stat padding in the second half of that Packers game. He didn't play.
I'm not accepting the Packers game. Sorry. No.
He didn't play poorly in that game. Hang on, I got some water. I got something in my throat.
They're right there. 6 and 7. Oh, hold on. 1 and 1, 2. They're 4-3 since he's been back.
Right. And so I think the Bills and the Cardinals game, those were 2 excellent quarterback games. They were go back and look. They were really strong.
No, he played well. I don't think he played a great game against the Rams. He was, and again, I'm going to say this very slowly and pronounce very well so it does not get misconstrued among those who never can understand what I'm saying. He was not the reason they lost against Green Bay, but he was part of the reason. And while he had great numbers, they also came after they were down 27-3 in the third quarter at a time when the game basically was over.
I'm not ruling that game against him, but I'm also not. I'm not using that as an argument for him either.
No, but
I would say the Packers game has been his worst game since he's been back. That's a pretty good worst game, right? I mean, that's not. He still went over 300 yards. He didn't turn the ball over. That's not a bad worst game. If that's the worst game you're going to have,
wasn't great against the Rams. I'm trying to be honest. I think if I recall, it was like a tale of 2 halves. And against Arizona, he had the sloppy, the safety, which didn't help in a 1-point loss.
You were expecting perfection.
No.
Well, not a single quarterback is
perfect. Dude, being able to handle a shotgun snap is not expecting perfection. And Bees, I'm with you on this. I put him in the MVP conversation. I don't know if I can do it if the Dolphins finish 9-8, giving him a record of 8-5 as a starting quarterback because he missed 4 games.
Right.
And to me, just the fact that the Dolphins had, I'm going to say this as politely as I can, substandard quarterback play in those 4 games should not boost him up more so than guys who played the whole year. That's a separate conversation.
Yes, I agree that if you would put Snoop Huntley into the Bills offense when Josh Allen went down, it wouldn't have been great either. It would not have been great. I agree with you. But you do see his value. You absolutely do see his value.
Absolutely. There's no question. Again, the way this offense is designed, he is the perfect guy. He is the point guard who runs the offense. Yep. Somebody called him John Stockton in the comments. He absolutely. And again, no, not everybody can run it to this efficiency. It should not have the kind of drop off the Dolphins had they been better prepared at the backup quarterback position, or if it's an issue of the system being so tailored to Tua, then it's on Mike McDaniel for not having made the necessary adjustments. It's unforgivable that your offense became so insanely bad those 4 games.
Well, and it's all an indictment of Skyler, to be honest. That's what it is they put everything into 3 years of development of Skyler Thompson. That's right. Like, think about this. Like, they had built for that moment. They believed in the offseason that the development he had shown in year 2 over year 1 was going to continue. Even though we didn't see it in the field, but they saw it and they believed it. That was their evaluation, that we believe he's going to take the next step, and then saw enough from him in training camp to say adios to Mike White. Like, it's not like, they didn't have another option. Mike White was there too, who was terrible, by the way. He was really, really bad in August.
He was bad
and he deserved to lose that job. But at that point, like, you had to have known, like, you had to have known Skyler wasn't going to be good enough at that. You had to have. Was it too late? And are they worried about bringing in a quarterback and learning the offense on the fly? Sure. That doesn't say you throw good money after bad and continue to double down on a mistake. And there's a lot of blame for why they are 6-7 right now, but I think that's near the top of the list.
Oh, no, without question. And again, if there was any remnant of hope or optimism that maybe Skyler, the light would come on and all that, when Mike McDaniel told us last week Tyler Huntley's the number 2 quarterback, that basically, okay, that's done, over with it.
Why is he still on the roster? Like, that to me is stunning. Why is he? There's not a team I don't know if the XFL will claim him. Like, seriously, like he if you cut him, he's going to clear waivers and you put him on the practice squad. I don't know why he's pulling down an NFL salary. I don't understand it. It makes zero sense. Like, what strategically do they gain by having a guy that basically he's your scout team quarterback now? Like, that's what he is. Why is he on your active roster when there's no risk whatsoever of him not returning to your locker room?
Well, it very well might happen. I actually thought, to be honest with you, that the Dolphins were going to activate Blake Ferguson on Saturday to have him snap against the Jets, and then he would be the corresponding move. And I still would expect, pardon me, is this contagious through the screen here, what you got going on here? I still would expect him at some point to be, because Bradley Chubb's going to get activated at some point. Maybe Cameron Good, even though I don't know that that's a slam dunk, because I don't know where they see him in the totem pole. And again, if for every player you bring on, you have to move somebody out. And injuries are going to take care of those, organically, but sometimes you're going to have to force a move. So I think Skyler is going to go either when Blake Ferguson comes back or when Bradley Chubb is activated.
Yeah, that's probably right.
So on that note, where we agree, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks as always. Sir.
Before we go, I wanted to get your thoughts on Jaylen Ramsey, because
did not have a great game.
Got hooked on Sunday, and Garrett Wilson is not the first young, quick quarterback or wide receiver to do that. Marvin Harrison Jr. had some success against him earlier in the year. I'm asking because I want to steal your ideas for a column that I'm going to write on Wednesday. What are you worried about? I mean, if Jaylen Ramsey's not playing like Jaylen Ramsey, this defense has no chance. It has no chance whatsoever.
No, and if you noticed, he's getting beaten like man coverage. And if you remember to last year, as he kind of lobbied for the opportunity to cover Garrett Wilson,
and did a great job. Like,
it was also Zach Wilson throwing passes. And then I don't remember who the backup was. I think Tim Boyle was no longer on the roster after Wilson got knocked out of the game. But no, that was not good. The thing with Ramsey is he still helps you, because I saw an extraordinarily non-physical secondary in run support yesterday, and he was somebody who would get his nose in there. Then he blitzes. He's very effective doing that. But in coverage yesterday, no, that was not great.
Yeah. I mean, the question is, at what point do they transition him to safety? It probably isn't going to be next year, but it can't be far off. Like, That's his future. Like he's a free safety for the Miami Dolphins, I think, in 2 years.
Yeah, and I actually had thrown that out when Anthony Weaver was hired, that he could become that kind of that Kyle Hamilton type of player.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows if Weaver is going to be around after this season, or if he's going to become a head coach somewhere.
Yeah, I mean the defense has got to play better, I would say. I mean, if you're a team and you're looking to make a hire, and they have not looked physical at all the last couple of weeks. I mean, think about this: is like
you're not calling him soft, are you?
I'm not calling him soft. Jordan Brooks called him soft.
Okay.
You watched that Sunday night game last night.
Mm-hmm.
I can be honest, I'm an old man. I fell asleep on the couch. But the parts I made it up for, both those teams looked incredibly physical.
Mm-hmm.
Incredibly physical, particularly on defense. Like the Chargers, they are not at all a pre-Jim Harbaugh Chargers defense. Those guys are physical. Yep. And like you got to pack a lunch when you play those guys. Like a single person in the league thinks that about the Dolphins defense.
Oh, without question. Baltimore and Pittsburgh are those kind of teams too. Pittsburgh is always, and year after year after year after year, you play them, you're going to feel it. And that sustains. You know what? It's not by accident the Steelers always have a winning record, and they're 10-3 this year. And I think had we discussed this before the season started, we would have been, you know what, Bees, the Steelers are going to be 10-3 after 13 games. What do you think? With, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, always in the hunt.
Yeah,
always in the hunt. And the Dolphins can get back in the hunt if they can take care of their business Sunday at Houston. That's going to wrap it up now. That's for real. Check out his work, my good friend Adam Beasley there at ProFootballNetwork.com. Find my work at MiamiDolphinsOnSI.com. We are both free content, not behind a paywall. Podcast, please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we will catch you on Tuesday with the old Behind Enemy Line segment. Thanks, everyone.